Here goes nothing. Oh, play. Imagine walking into a warehouse colder than your ex's heart. Metal tanks taller than you, lined up like futuristic grain silos. Each one humming softly like it's hiding a secret. Frost creeps across the stainless steel. The air stings your face. And somewhere inside those metal tanks, people, real people, dead people, just hanging out in liquid nitrogen like they booked a stay at the world's iciest day spa. Alrighty then. Welcome back to the intersection of science, death, and I'm sorry, what exactly are we doing here? Because today we're talking about the folks who said, I'm not done yet, freeze me, and I'll deal with the logistics later. This is cryonics. Or no, this is cryonics. The ultimate, I don't believe in death, I believe in my credit card moment. And listen, I understand wanting a second chance at life. I do. But when you take a peek inside these facilities and see what's actually going on, oh my goodness, you might want someone to hold your emotional support coffee. People are paying 6 figures. 6 for this, for a spot in a freezing warehouse where time has supposedly paused, but biology sure hasn't. And today, we're going to talk about exactly why this maybe I'll wake up in 500 years plan might be a little more wishful thinking than scientific certainty. Certainty? That is such a weird word. Certainty. Scientific certainty. All right, coffin crew, buckle up. The Morbid School Bus is warmed up, the embalming fluid is topped off, and if you haven't poured your coffee or your wine yet, I'll wait. Flashlights ready, morbid curiosity engaged, because once again, we're taking this thing 6 feet deep. Morbid Monday, I don't know, that's all I got. I was gonna sing it to a Taylor Swift song. You bring the coffee and I'll bring the death stories. It's a love story, baby, just say Morbid Monday. Cue the intro. So let's talk about what cryonics says it is, because according to the brochures, the websites, and a handful of extremely hopeful tech bros, this is the future of immortality. In their perfect world, here's how it goes. You die, legally, not spiritually. Calm down. And a rapid response team rushes in like it's the world's coldest ambulance. They cool your body, pump you full of fancy chemicals, cradle you lovingly like a science project, and then tuck you into a giant nitrogen tank where you will patiently wait for the future to figure out how to revive you. Which is adorable, really. But seriously, the sales pitch is actually kind of beautiful. They describe cryonics as a form of medical time travel. Medical time travel. Like you're skipping ahead to see what humanity becomes. They frame it like, you're not dead, you're just paused. Like you're a Netflix show someone fell asleep watching. They'll tell you you're a patient, not a corpse. They'll tell you that future doctors will be able to revive you, repair your body, reverse the damage, reboot your brain, and send you on your merry way back into society. As if you'll wake up, stretch, ask what year it is, and stroll out to go get brunch in the robot cafe. It's a nice dream. Genuinely, death is terrifying to a lot of people. The unknown is terrifying. So the idea that you can skip the scary part and coast into the future, that is chef's kiss marketing strategy. But here's the thing nobody putting down a deposit wants to talk about. If everything went perfectly, if the cooling was immediate, the chemicals worked flawlessly, the brain stayed perfectly preserved, if we still have a teensy tiny microscopic problem. We have absolutely no technology that can bring a frozen, legally dead human back to life. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. Not even close. And yet, people are signing contracts like they're booking an Airbnb in the year 2450. So yes, cryonics claims to be medical time travel. But what it actually is, that's where things get interesting and a whole lot colder. So now that we've talked about what cryonics promises, what these companies are like, hey, this is what we got in this fancy brochure, let's talk about what actually happens to your body when you sign up to be the human equivalent of a frozen Hot Pocket. All right, deep breaths, sip your coffee. Here we go. All right, you die legally. The heart stops, the brain stops, everything stops. And unless you died in the lobby of the Cryonic Center, which honestly would be incredibly convenient for them, your body is already starting the decomposition process. Let's be real. Cryonics hates decomposition. Literally hates it. Like me hating when someone asks if dead bodies sit up on their own. No, they don't. Stop the madness. So step 1, they cool you down fast. As in they pack you in ice like you're the world's saddest charcuterie board fast. This slows decomposition, but honey, it does not stop it. Next, Cryonics loves to brag about how they preserve your cells. Let me translate that from science fiction to Mortician English. They are desperately trying to keep your body from becoming a microscopic snow globe, because when water inside your cells freezes, it expands. It forms crystals. Beautiful, deadly little ice knives. Ka-chow, ka-chow. I can't make a knife noise. These ice crystals slice your cells open from the inside like tiny frozen ninjas. Your tissues? Damaged. Your organs? Damaged. Your brain? Oh, sweetheart, your brain is getting shredded. And remember, the brain is the one thing that they need intact. You wake up in 500 years with scrambled eggs for neurons. You won't be asking what year it is. You won't even remember your own name. So to stop these ice ninjas, they replace your blood with cryoprotectants, basically human antifreeze. And yes, when you hear we're draining the blood and pumping in chemicals, it does sound a little like embalming, because honestly, it is embalming. They can tell you it's not all day long, but when you drain the blood and replace it with chemicals, that's embalming. It's just not my kind of embalming. I'm preserving you for today, for your family, for your goodbye. They're preserving you for a future that doesn't even exist yet and might never. But back to the antifreeze. These cryoprotectants are toxic. They're toxic. Like, congratulations, we stopped the ice crystals, but now your cells are marinating in poison. Pick your fighter, I guess? Cryonics companies love saying the word vitrification. They say it like it's a spell. We vitrify the patient. Relax. Vitrification means getting your tissues into a glass-like frozen state without forming ice crystals. Amazing idea. Huge problem. We have never vitrified an entire human body successfully. Not once, not ever. We can barely pull it off with small organs. And reversing it, getting that organ back out of the glass state without destroying it, science said, oh girl, absolutely not. No. So while Cryonics sells you the dream of perfectly preserved tissues waiting for a glorious future awakening, what actually happens looks more like this. 1. The body starts decomposing before they even get there. 2. Ice crystals get to have their tiny little murder party. 3. The antifreeze is toxic. 4. We have no technology to reverse any of it. It's basically taking a person, turning them into a biological slushy, and saying, yeah, we'll just fix that later. Sure. Okay. Alrighty then. I love talking about this stuff, so I hope you're still listening, because this is so interesting to me. I could talk about it all day if you can't tell. And I haven't even told you the weirdest part yet. Cryonics stores people upside down. I bet Hannah's going to edit this and put me upside down. They put you upside down. But don't worry, we're about to get into that. And if you're sitting there with your coffee thinking, Lauren, why are we hanging dead people like bats? Oh, buckle up. Because this explanation is both practical and slightly hilarious. Can I say that? I'm gonna say it. The whole reason they store you upside down head first is because if anything goes wrong with the tank, and I mean anything, they want your head to be the very last thing to thaw. Your feet, they're sacrificial. Goodbye toes, goodbye ankles. Those babies are the first ones to defrost if something goes south. I mean, I hope they have generators in there, but because here's the thing, these nitrogen tanks tanks require constant monitoring. And if the liquid nitrogen level drops from a leak, a refilling delay, a tech who overslept, somebody who didn't show up to work, the nitrogen evaporates from the top down. So imagine a giant metal thermos full of legally dead people, and the liquid level drops like a sad little battery icon. If you're stored feet down, your head is the first thing to start thawing. And even cryonics knows that a thawed brain is, well, more soup than science. So how do we solve that? We hang you upside down like a frozen rotisserie chicken. That's all I can picture now. Your brain is considered the most important asset. Not your body, not your organs, your personality. Just your noggin, the central computer. Beep, 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 beep. So the idea is this. If the tank fails, let the feet go. RIP your feet. Just whatever you do, don't thaw the brain. That's literally the logic. And honestly, from a mortician perspective, it's kind of hilarious to me and kind of makes sense all at the same time. Morbidly funny? Morbidly funny. Because you can stitch a body back together, you can rebuild tissue, but you cannot re-scramble a scrambled brain, at least not yet. Just know this, when you sign up to be frozen for eternity, you're going headfirst into that tank. Your feet are basically the Titanic band playing while the ship sinks, knowing they're not making it out. And yes, this is somehow the least shocking part of cryonics. We are nowhere near done. So what does a cryonics facility actually look like? Because if you're picturing something futuristic, blue LED lights, chrome walls, scientists walking around with a clipboard in lab coats whispering philosophical poetry while they freeze people. No, it looks like a warehouse, a literal warehouse, like Costco, but instead of bulk toilet paper, they've got human popsicles, and they don't want them to melt. You walk in and it feels like someone's converted an industrial office building and said, yep, this'll do. Concrete floors, fluorescent lighting that screams tax season, a front desk where someone definitely eats tuna sandwiches. The vibe is less Futurama and more unfinished science fair project. There's gonna be somebody who watches this that works there and she's gonna be like, I do not eat tuna sandwiches. Then you're escorted into the tank room, the heart of the cryonics operation. Rows of enormous stainless steel cylinders stretch across the space, covered in frost like someone's been storing the ghost of Christmas past in each one. Oh my gosh, that was so Midwestern. The ghost of Christmas past. And these tanks, they're massive. They look like the type of thing that should be storing propane for a small town. Definitely don't look like anything from Austin Powers. I mean, that was... That was top tier in the early 2000s. Inside each tank are multiple people, full bodies, just layered in there. And remember, many of those folks paid over $200,000 for this. $200,000. What is Mr. Incredible? Or no, what's that guy do? What's his name? Dr. Evil. $200,000. I have to strike the pose. No, I can't even do it. That's all I got. To be packed into a nitrogen silo behind what is essentially an HVAC unit. But wait, there's more. There's the neuro storage section. This is where they keep just the heads. Cryonics call it neuros. Normal humans call it, why are there severed heads in thermos tanks? These are people who said, you know what? I don't need the body. I don't need that. Just freeze the brain, freeze the noggin. And it's cheaper, of course it is, because suddenly you're taking up way less real estate. Minimalistic living, even after death. We love that. The staff, they're not futuristic scientists with floating holograms. They're regular technicians doing routine maintenance, checking nitrogen levels, mopping the floor, answering emails, and honestly, mad respect, because if I had to walk past a row of frozen heads every day on my lunch break, I'd be doing affirmations in the car, for sure, 100%. So you're standing there in this industrial warehouse. The tanks are humming. The air is so cold, it feels like your eyebrows are trying to escape, and it hits you. This is what people are paying 6 figures for. Not a warm, glowing immortality temple, not a glass-floored cryo lab from Avengers, just a giant freezing garage full of human hopes and nitrogen. And look, there's nothing wrong with that, but if I'm dropping 6 figures to be stored in a tin can until the year 2850, I at least want some mood lighting, maybe a candle, a plant, something. Mariah Carey singing All I Want for Christmas Is You. But no, it's a warehouse. And if you think that was wild, wait until we talk about the science problem, because that is where this whole frozen fantasy really starts to melt. So now that we've toured the frozen Costco of human hope, it's time to talk about the one tiny microscopic itsy bitsy issue with cryonics. We have absolutely no way to revive a frozen human being. Seems like a big problem. None. Zero. Zip. And trust me, this is not a matter of, oh, we just need another year or two of research. No, honey. This is a centuries-long list of problems that science has not even begun to solve. Problem number 1. Remember all those tiny ice ninjas slicing your cells to bits and pieces? Cute. Deadly. Permanent. We don't have any technology that can repair microscopic cellular destruction on a whole body scale. We don't even have tech to fix it on a fingertip scale. We can barely keep organs alive for transplant, and cryonics thinks we're gonna rebuild an entire frozen person with the consistency of a thawing snow cone? Sure, okay. Problem number 2. Biggest issue is the brain. Cryonics needs the brain to stay structurally intact, so your memories, personality, your whole identity, all the stuff that makes you survives. But when you freeze a brain, the neurons get damaged. The synapses disconnect. The tissue literally fractures. And once those pathways are gone, so are your memories. So even if they could revive your body someday, which they can't, there's a solid chance you'd wake up like a brand new iPhone with factory settings. Cute, shiny, but empty. Problem number 3, even if we solve the ice damage, the antifreeze that they pump into you is toxic as hell. So congratulations if the freezing didn't get you, the chemicals did. Your cells aren't just cold, they're poisoned. I don't know about you, but I do not want my revival plan to depend on hopefully future science can unpoison me. And here's the one cryonics fans, people that want this, they don't want to talk about this. We don't have a safe way to thaw a human body. You can't just toss a frozen person in the microwave and hit defrost. The outside would warm faster than the inside, and boom, massive thermal cracks, tissue damage. It's an internal disaster. We can barely throw a frozen kidney. We can barely thaw a frozen kidney without ruining it. A whole frozen human? The science community is literally saying absolutely not, babe, no. And even if, is this problem number 5? Problem number 5, even if, and this is a huge if, we find a way to thaw you, unpoison you, fix the tissue damage, and repair trillions of your cells, we still have no method to restart a dead human body. No technology, no machine, no protocol, nothing. Your body is not a laptop. There is no power on button. We don't even know how to revive a cryogenically frozen mouse, let alone a grown adult who's been in a tank for 200 years. So when cryonics companies say, we're preserving you for the future they're talking about does not exist yet, and it might not ever exist at all. And listen, I love science, but I also love not lying to you. The technology to bring someone back from cryonic preservation isn't even in development. It isn't almost there. It's not even on the map yet. Cryonics isn't revival. It's hope. Hope in a freezer. And hope is lovely, but hope is not a medical plan. So after everything we've talked about, the ice damage, the toxic chemicals, the frozen Costco vibe, you might be wondering, Lauren, why do people still sign their bodies up to be frozen after they die? Why do they sign up for cryonics? Honestly, because being human is hard, and being mortal is even harder. First up, pure, unfiltered fear. Fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of the lights going out forever. Cryonics offers them a story where they don't actually die. They're just taking a really long nap in a very, very cold bedroom. I don't know if I'd call it a bedroom. it. Then there's the tech crowd, the people who believe technology can solve everything. They trust Silicon Valley more than they trust biology. They're like, sure, we can't fix a frozen strawberry without turning it to mush, but I bet we can reboot a 200-year-old dead person. Yeah. Okay, Optimus Prime, take me to your leader. Some people choose cryonics because they're obsessed with the idea of seeing the future. Put me in the tank. Wake me up when there are flying cars, space hotels, robot butlers, and TikTok finally gets banned. I mean, that'd be pretty cool, but also no. And then let's talk about the big cultural myth that keeps cryonics in the public imagination. Walt Disney. Have you heard that rumor that Walt Disney was frozen? His dead body was frozen for the future? Let me clear this up. Walt Disney was not cryogenically frozen. He was cremated, like good old-fashioned mortuary science. No giant freezer, no ice chips, no Mickey Mouse head tank. I mean, I hope they put him in a Mickey Mouse urn, for crying out loud, but the rumor that Disney is frozen and he's being held under the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you know that rumor? Oh, people love that story. And honestly, that rumor alone is responsible for half the public believing cryonics is a real, practical thing we're doing at scale. It made freezing a dead human body feel whimsical, mystical, like something only geniuses, legends, and billionaires do because they know something the rest of us don't. They don't. But in reality, it's not Walt Disney in those tanks, it's regular people, terrified people, trying to outrun the one thing none of us can dodge. My light died back there. Really? Kind of climatic of you to die right now, talking about death, trying to outrun the one thing none of us can dodge. Death. I guess in a way, cryonics also gives people a sense of control. Death takes everything from you, but cryonics feels like taking something back. It says, I don't accept the end. I get to choose my own fate. Even if that fate is a giant nitrogen thermos tank. I keep calling it that, but that's what it looks like to me. It's a big thermos. You know, you put hot things in it. You drink out of it. No. Even if that fate is a giant, tiny looking spaceship. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with hope. Hope is beautiful, and hope is human. But cryonics isn't selling science. It's selling hope wrapped in stainless steel. And when you're grieving or anxious or staring down your own mortality, hope is really easy to buy. But as comforting as cryonics feels in theory, the reality hits a lot different, especially when you look at it from a mortician's point of view. And lucky for you, that's exactly what we're doing in this next little segment here. But before we talk about that, I do want to pause and talk about the people, because cryonics isn't just giant silver tanks and sci-fi chemicals. There are actual human beings inside those tanks with stories, lives, tragedies, and families. And some of these cases are public. Some were in the news. Some made headlines because they were so heartbreaking or weird or controversial. And honestly, they deserve a moment. So of course, I had to research some people that chose this, and we gonna talk about them right now. So the first story is one that absolutely blew up internationally. A teenage girl in the UK, just 14 years old, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Before she died, she begged her parents to let her be cryonically preserved because she said, I want to wake up someday and have a chance to live. Pulling at my heartstrings. This wasn't about immortality. This was a child who didn't want her life to be over before it even started. And her mother respected her wishes. Her father didn't agree, and they ended up in court fighting over whether she could be frozen. And in the end, the court ruled in her favor. And that young girl is now in a cryonics tank in Michigan, suspended in time because she still wanted the chance to grow up. Woofda. Then there's the story of Dr. James Bedford, the very first person ever cryonically frozen back in 1967. He was a psychology professor, and he genuinely believed science would one day revive him. He died of kidney cancer, and within hours he was placed into early experimental cryonic preservation. Let me remind you, this was the 60s, the same decade where people were smoking inside hospitals. But that man is still frozen today today the oldest cryonics patient in the world. They've moved him between multiple facilities over the decades like a very cold, very complicated UPS package. He's the OG cryonics hopeful. Some cryonics cases are more unusual, like the man who signed up to preserve only his head. Yeah, I said that, just the head, because he believed his consciousness could be uploaded to a computer someday. And he said, and I quote, "I don't want my body, it's just the hardware." His head is now stored in the neuro section of a cryonics facility, somewhere among dozens of other severed heads that all signed up for the same deal. Minimalism at its frostiest. This last one is messier. A man passed away and his adult son desperately wanted him cryonically preserved. The man's wife, the son's mother, said absolutely not. They battled over custody of the body. Court filings, emergency petitions, funeral home standoffs. This actually happens more than you think, actually. I just said actually twice. Are you snoring? This happens more than you think. Families disagreeing over disposition. Eventually, the son won custody, which floors me, by the way, because it should have been his wife who got to make decisions. I have no idea why that worked out. Didn't look into it further. I should. So the father was frozen, and the mother, she was left grieving in a way she never agreed to. Cryonics doesn't just freeze bodies. Sometimes it freezes families. So when we talk about cryonics, how many times did I say cryonics in this whole thing? I don't even know how many times, but I should have made it into a sip your coffee game. Well, anyways, so when we talk about cryonics, it's not just silver tanks and science experiments. It's people, real people with real lives and real heartbreak. And that is why the Mortician perspective matters, because once you understand the stories behind the tanks, you realize how high the emotional stakes really are. Which brings us to the next part. Now that we've talked about who is actually inside those tanks, the teenagers, the scientists, the fathers, the heads, let's talk about what cryonics looks like from my side of the table. As a mortician, I deal with death as it is, not as we wish it to be. In cryonics, it treats death like a glitch, like something you can just work around if you freeze them fast enough. But death doesn't work like that, and the body doesn't work like that, and I've seen enough to know the difference. Cryonics needs you almost immediately after you die. But here's the real chain of custody for a body. Hospital, paperwork, family decisions, possible medical examiner involvement, transportation, and, I ran out of fingers, release forms. It's never instantaneous. Bodies don't roll directly into a nitrogen tank like a drive-through. And in those hours, decomposition has already started. The very thing cryonics is trying to outrun has already crossed the finish line and is halfway back to the start. As a mortician, I see that process every single day. I know exactly what the body does in those first hours. Lola is here just, you are snoring up a, ma'am, did you want to hear her snore? No, she's not. When I embalm someone, I work slowly, gently, respectfully. I focus on dignity and presentation. I protect the family's memory of their loved one. Cryonics is not gentle, it's not ceremonial, and it's not about looking peaceful. It's clinical, mechanical, and extremely urgent. They're not brushing your hair or setting your features lovingly. Definitely not listening to some old 90s country like I do while embalming. They're packing you in ice and rushing to cannulate arteries before the tissue breaks down further. It's not wrong, it's just not what families imagine. And this is the part that genuinely weighs on my heart. Families who choose cryonics aren't just preserving a body, they're preserving hope. They're delaying grief. And grief isn't meant to be delayed. Come on, honey. When you put a loved one in a tank for someday, your brain never fully enters the acceptance stage. You're grieving a person who isn't truly gone in your mind. They're frozen, literally and emotionally. As morticians, we understand the limits of what the human body can handle. And cryonics massively oversells what's possible. Once tissue is gone, it's gone. Once the brain has been damaged, it's damaged. There is no reboot button. And that's something cryonics companies rarely say out loud. So why am I telling you this? Because the frozen people in those tanks, their stories still matter. Their families matter. And their grief matters. And as someone who works with the dead personally, I'm telling you with my whole chest, the body does not follow sci-fi rules. And that's why morticians and cryonics see two very different realities. Okay, coffin cuties. We've talked about the science, the bodies, the real people frozen in those tanks and how morticians see all of this. Now we need to talk about the part that cryonics really doesn't want you to think about. You ready? Drum roll. The ethics. The ethics. Because cryonics isn't just a science problem, it's a philosophy problem, an identity problem, a future society problem. It is one giant, messy, existential casserole. Can I say that? Existential casserole. I just did. Let's say you sign up to have your body frozen. Got your little cryonics membership card, your tank spot reserved, you're living your frozen fantasy. And then, what happens when your trust fund runs out? What happens if the cryonics company goes bankrupt? What happens when your subscription to the afterlife lapses? These are questions. I wonder them. Who is responsible for keeping your tank filled with liquid nitrogen for centuries? Your kids? Their kids? A random great-great-grandniece? The government? Jeff Bezos? Beyonce? A society that does not know you and did not ask for your frozen corpse? It's giving unfunded future problem. I know you've seen crypts or mausoleums that eventually they run out of funding and they just return to the earth. They're collapsing in on themselves. They have no money. They have no funding. Nobody responsible for them. And let's be brutally honest. If you do get revived someday, what if the future society says, no thanks, unfrozen grandpa, we're full. We're full. They don't know you. They didn't vote for you. They didn't consent to your revival in their time period. You are essentially an immigrant from the past arriving with zero context. And humanity doesn't always treat outsiders kindly. Ask literally any history book. Let's talk rights. If you wake up 300 years from now after being legally dead, are you still a citizen? Do you get taxes? A social security number? A house? A body? A job? I mean, these are real questions I lay awake thinking about at night. Imagine getting revived after 2 centuries and the first thing they hand you is a W-4 form. Death might have been easier. If your memories and personality don't survive the freezing process, and science reanimates your body but not your mind, is that person even you? Or is it someone else wearing your meat suit? And if it's not really you, did you consent to being revived? I mean, let that sink in. Oh yeah, and let's not forget the carbon footprint of keeping your private frozen nitrogen tank running for 500 years. I love the idea of saving the planet, but maybe not by storing thousands of frozen corpses in energy-hungry warehouses until the year 3000. I mean, just saying. And here's the one that hits home. Cryonics markets itself to people who are terrified of losing someone or terrified of dying. My light just went out again. The ghosts are still here. As a mortician, I see how vulnerable people are in those moments. I see how desperately they want hope. Literally any hope. Cryonics isn't just selling preservation. It's selling a dream, a fantasy, to people who are grieving, scared, and overwhelmed. And that makes me uncomfortable. Don't like it. So at the end of the day, cryonics isn't just a scientific gamble, it's an ethical minefield. And walking through that minefield with a coffee and a lab coat is exactly why you're here. So let's wrap this icy adventure up. After all of that, what do I think about cryonics? I think cryonics is a fascinating idea. I think it's full of hope, fear, science, science fiction, and a whole lot of stainless steel confidence. But at the end of the day, a freezer isn't immortality. A tank isn't a time machine, and nitrogen can only do so much. We don't freeze time, we don't freeze grief, and we don't freeze the human condition. And maybe that's okay. As a mortician, I think there's something powerful about living fully while we're here, loving fiercely while we're alive, and honoring people honestly after they're gone. We don't need to chase immortality to make our lives meaningful. We just need to be present while we're here. But But if you want to be frozen in a giant futuristic vessel and take your chances with robot future world, hey, live your truth. Just make sure you label your tank spot clearly, because I am not going in there with a clipboard trying to sort out lost souls. Ain't nobody got time for that. So whether you believe cryonics is the next big leap in human evolution or the coldest hope chest ever invented, I hope today gave you a new way to think about death and the wild things people do trying to avoid it. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy. You're crazy, girl. You're crazy. And if you ever do wake up in 500 years, please log back into my channel and tell me if Starbucks finally fixed their mobile orders. Asking for a friend. All right, Coffin Crew, thank you for taking this chilly little detour with me. Don't forget, death is weird, science is wilder. And here on the Morbid School Bus, we're always gonna talk about the stuff everyone else is too scared to Google at 3 a.m. So if you like today's deep dive into the frozen people farm, hit like, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another Morbid Monday. And as always, stay curious, stay morbid, and pour yourself another cup of coffee. You earned it. YOLO. I mean, unless you freeze your body and somehow wake up not dead in 500 years. NOLO. Anyways, you need some mango kisses, but she's sleeping. She's a little tired. She hasn't had her surgery yet. Update on the mango. So I'm going to try to give you some Lola kisses. Is that okay? This is Lola. Lola is Mango's sister or sister. Sister from another meester. Come here. You were... She was snoring in the background. Did you hear her? Can you give kisses? You're kind of stingy. Her name was Lola. She was a show Boston Terrier. White and black fur. She was so pretty, pretty, pretty. Okay, I have to get a mango so she can give you a kiss, because, I mean, you just can't start your week. Where are you? Okay, here we go. Oh, and she's ready. She's so ready to give you kisses. She's like, mother, mother. Oh, and friends, mother and friends. Don't eat it. Oh, please. Oh, it's in your tongue and everything. Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have a surgery date yet. I'm going to find out tomorrow. Actually, maybe I'll be able to post in the comments under this video when her surgery is. If you missed it in the last video, Mango needs surgery on her hip. So she's going to, yeah. Hopefully right after Thanksgiving is my hope. So you don't have to wait much longer. But she's feeling fine, as you can tell. Okay. Well, love you. We'll talk to you later then. Bye-bye now.